All right, let's get into another 52 travel size segment. Let's get back into another one. This time we're going to travel down to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I usually don't talk about Oklahoma on this, on our podcast a lot because I'm not an Oklahoma guy. I love Sean out there up in Oklahoma, the guys up there. But no, I'm just giving you shit, Sean. But yeah, Oklahoma, I don't really talk about too much. But this segment, it's going to kind of be it's going to be one kind of topic thing, but it's not it's one of my favorite topics. And Paul Harvey is one of my uh, like AM heroes, along with like there's other. I used to listen to a lot of AM radio growing up. From the age because I started working at the age of 13, so from 13 till now, till as an adult, I still listen to AM radio. I like being. I like news and knowing what's going on. I again love history. I always loved history. Love knowing what's going on in the world. Something that gets me through the day. I'm listening to that. And, hear what's going on. And like I said, I create my own opinion. Form my own opinion on what I hear. I hear. I listen to conservative. I listen to NPR. I listen to them all just to see what they're saying, and they all kind of have. Everybody's on the side, but in the end, I'll go back and look at things my way, and that's what Paul Harvey did, man. Paul Harvey. Sometimes they replayed at night, and I would listen to the replays at night, going to bed at night, before going to bed for school. I remember middle school. I really got into him in middle school. Used to him a lot. He was and his thing was his shtick, his tagline was that's the rest of the story, and that's the rest of the story. His voice was just nothing like it was like I ever heard. Nothing like it. He was made for radio. His voice was made for radio. Uh, like I said, he was born in Oklahoma. His dad was a police officer, and in 1921, his dad was running down some criminals and robbers. Excuse me, some robbers. They were robbing a store, and they shot him. So they shot his dad, and he was very young at a very young age. And he was in Tulsa Central High School, and he went to school. It was 2 years ahead of actor Tony Randall. Tony Randall's a huge actor. He went to the same school as him, and I didn't know that. Tony Randall, I didn't know he was a Oklahoma guy. And one of his teachers in high school was impressed by his voice, and he's like, "Man, you need to do something with your voice in radio or something like that. You need to do something special like that." And so he, as a kid, at 14, he went to KVOO in Tulsa, and he would start. He worked there in the radio station. He was cleaning up at 14, and then as they saw him, they got to know him, and he had a good character. He had a good voice. He had a good personality. So they put him on air or something. He would do commercials, or sometimes he'd fill in. This is at the age of 14. That's crazy, man. He was filling. Continued to work there through college. He went to University of Tulsa. He still kept working at the radio station. Did that, and he moved to Hawaii to cover the Pearl Harbor attacks. He wanted to cover the Pearl Harbor attacks, and then eventually after that he enlisted. He enlisted into the U.S. Army Forces. Excuse me, Army Air Forces. He served from December of 1943 to I think 1944, resulting, and then he got a medical discharge. I'm guessing he got wounded or hurt, and then he moved to Chicago, and then he began broadcasting there from there. The things he did in Chicago, he did like jobs for GIs. He did a lot of stuff like he did a lot of things of that nature having to do with the military. And then he kind of fell into this thing, this tagline that he had is that this is then now it's the rest of the story. Here's the rest of the story, and that turned to his radio segment, which was that was iconic. That was with Paul Harvey. What caught my eye with him is just he would talk about stories and uh, interesting stories, and he would have stories like the origin of the Coca-Cola company and JFK assassinations, through the widow's eyes, things of that nature. Tales of Elvis Presley, as his childhood. He told the stories from a different perspective, it's like a third person perspective of his writing. It blew me away how he could just talk. There was no stuttering, no mumbling like me. I mumble all the time and I stutter all the time because I don't have my words and I don't have you know. This guy was a wordsmith. I'm not a wordsmith. I'm an idiot, but I love doing this. And people like him, Paul Harvey, inspired me to do stuff like this because it's just he was talked again with him. He talked about pop culture, what was going on in the time, but he did a spin on it where it was entertaining and he was giving you information, but it was fun. It wasn't just spewing off. Here's another event. Here's another. It was in a fun way. One of his biggest things that hit, and it was cool to see it is when he talked about I think it was the Chevrolet commercial during a Super Bowl. Chevrolet, I don't know if it was Chevy or Ford. I can't remember which one it was. And the commercial, and then they used over the overlay. The voice was him talking about a farmer. This is the life of a farmer, or why God created the farmer. Or
God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, milk cows, work all day in the fields, milk cows again, eat supper, then go to town and stay past midnight at a meeting of the school board. So God made a farmer. I need somebody with arms strong enough to wrestle a calf and yet gentle enough to deliver his own grandchild. Somebody to call hogs, tame cantankerous machinery, come home hungry, have to wait lunch until his wife's done feeding visiting ladies, then tell the ladies to be sure and come back real soon, and mean it. So God made a farmer.
that whole bit is something else, man. I think he did one on a firefighter. He's done one, all sorts, man, all sorts. And he's the one I did listen to the other day. I hadn't heard it in a long time. I think when he did it live broadcasting. I think it was in 1965 was the original broadcasting of this. And it's called "If I Were the Devil," and it's him warning America about the future, what's going on, what he thinks and what he sees.
If I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
What it is, this whole thing is kind of translating to, if you read this or look at the video on YouTube, it kind of translates to what's going on now. It's like extreme, being a patriot, being patriotic is a sin, and being married is old fashioned. The thing is to be, back then the words he used in was like being a swinger and do what you want, and look down on the core family values. It was just really cool the way he broke this down now. And this was 1965 when he was writing it was saying this, and it kind of relates now. And it's like basically saying, kind of like it's with social media. It's like, you get people to do anything to get attention, and it was weird how it felt. Like I said, if you haven't seen that YouTube video of that, or the transcript of it, reading the transcript's better because you can get into the words of it, and it's just good. He's very insightful. It's just commenting stories that he'd mix in with like everyday events, current events that he was talking about on the radio. He reached over 24 million listeners, over 1,600 radio stations. He had a cadence about him. His cadence was good. He was slow, and then he had dramatic pauses. He was like, and this has been Paul Harvey, and it'd be a pause and have a good day. He had a way about him that was very folksy, and you wanted to listen to him. He's just like, just like an old friend, and that's what I had on the radio listening to it. It made me feel comfortable, and I go into bed, like I said, because they play replays at night, so I'd listen to it, and it was just like, man, this is very soothing. This is before, the, what is it, MSAR, whatever shit. I had Paul Harvey in my ear, whispering, in my Walkman headphones, the yellow ones. Those were cool. Those are the best, the yellow Walkman. And that's what I would have in my ears, and I'd go to sleep to that. So I would hear all these cool stories that he had. Like I said, he was giving you, what was going on in politics and whatnot and what have you, and what was going on. But he also would bring it back to what happened. This has been happening for ages, so nothing's really changed. We don't really change. It's just we have little changes. It's just, and that's why I enjoyed him so much, because like I said, he made it to where you could understand what was going on in the world of politics. Break it down, break it down for the idiot like me, which I loved. But yeah, he just had a way about him, and like I said, he had a way, and his pauses were perfect, man. And he touched so many people. So this historian, had tracked down Paul Harvey's son, Paul Harvey Jr. He tracked him down. He talked to him on the phone. He got him on the phone, he was very surprised, this historian, and they were talking, and he would ask him, like, what, how did your parents meet? He goes, yeah, well, my dad and my mom, they both met at a radio station. She was a well-known radio broadcaster and personality, and my dad came along to be the radio program director at the radio station, and they met in an elevator, and he asked her. He was quick on his feet. Paul Harvey was quick on his feet. He was a charmer, man. He could charm your pants off you. He told he told his mom. He told her, I need a ride. Can you give me a ride to the airport? She's like, sure. I'll give you a ride to the airport. So they're talking, and and they agreed, and she stepped into his 1938 Nash coupe. And on their way to the airport, Paul asked. She asked Paul, what time is your flight? He goes, what flight? And it was great because he's just, he's a charmer, man. And she got in the car with him. It was just, and it was all consent. Everybody was consenting adults. Nobody got, manhandled or anything. So they got married within a year. They got married, and again, like I said, his son had awesome stories from like people who were like behind the scenes of him in radio. His daddy behind radio and scenes, how nice he was, the nicest cat there was, and so they asked his son, what was there a story that kind of stuck out to you that it was like a classic story that his dad kind of, something about his dad that was a special story, dealing with the people that loved him and whatnot. Because yeah, there was a lady named Mary, and she owned the Blue Owl, St. Louis, a little restaurant, one of Paul Harvey's favorite little restaurants to hit up. Everybody knew him there. He was known. Had friends there. He was loved there, and he would pass by every day. Like clockwork. He passed by every day, and until the day he passed away in 2009. But he passed by all the time, and he was Mary's one of Mary's favorite customers. And in back in 1993, there was a flood, and the entire town was underwater, except for a few buildings, including Mary's was not underwater. It wasn't as bad. And she says that Paul Harvey, surprised her that day, and he came by on a boat because he has a water. He came on a little boat, and he came over there, and he goes, uh, "What did he say?" He said, "Hey, Mary," in his distinct voice, he goes, "Got any pies, Mary?" And she's like, that made her day. Like to hear him, despite all the devastation and the flood and everything, she didn't care about it because she heard him. He made it. He was like, she's used to seeing every day. He was there, and he did that. He said that. He goes, got any pies? That was cool, man. Like I said, powerful guy, man. Like I said, that voice was crazy, man. I think my voice, when I hear his voice, my voice is heinous, and it's just there's not too many like him. Along with and the rest of the story was his catchphrase, and he also had page two, like when he's reading, page two. He had these little things that he did that were little quirks that he did that I loved, and I said because it's just like that made him. I made him, and from what I gather in textbooks, he coined the phrase Reaganomics. Is from what I gather, what I was reading about him, because I've been wanting to do an episode on Paul Harvey for the longest time. It's just because, like I said, he struck a nerve with me as a kid, and it always stuck with me, and that's why I've always wanted to do this kind of stuff here. Even though I'm not good at it, I'm not great at it at all. I just like doing it. I just like running my mouth, and I love, talking about things that touched me as a kid. That were impact me as a kid growing up. That made a impact on my DNA as growing up. Talk radio was one of them. Of course, art, TV was a big thing. Radio, TV were huge for me. I always say this: TV was my babysitter, and I'm grateful for it. I learned a lot of stuff from it. I learned a lot of nonsense and useless knowledge from it, and but I appreciate it, man. It's a big part of me, man. So TV, radio, big thing for me. So he's big part of pop culture, and like I said, he's one of my biggest inspirations. And I wish I was better at this, but I'll get better at this. In time, I'll get better at this. But I love what I do here. I love what we do here. He was inducted into the National Radio Hall of Fame, also to the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. Got a presidential medal award from Bush W. I got that. He was just a big part of our thing. He was a big voice over decades. From 1933, his voice was on the air. Not if for 54 years, his voice was on the air. First it was started small, and now it went nationwide. So, but for so long, man, he was just a big part of my life, and recognizable voice, like I said, just good humor, kindness. The common sense. It's just he had common sense. It was just like just America, the middle class guy. He kind of spoke for that guy, the working class guy, and that's why I always liked him. I know he could relate to he could relate, knew what we were going through as the middle class folks, the everyday worker, the guy that gets up every day. It's like in Bronx Tale. I love the line from De Niro when De Niro tells C. He tells him, man, the tough guy is a working class guy. The guy who gets up every morning, that's the tough guy. That's the tough guy. And I always love that line. That's a great line. At the end there, Harvey passed away February 28th of 2009 at the age of 90. He was in the hospital in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, where he passed away. All his family was there. There was really no cause of death. I think it was just kind of old cat, just kind of passed away. The way, his son, he got his son involved in what he was doing. They only had one son, and his name is Paul Harvey Jr. And he would assist him with the news and his segment, the rest of the story. Uh, he'd help him with that, and he helped him with the bumpers, in between things. He would help his dad. But yeah, they continue to do it. But then he, like I said, passed away in 2009. And but no, his there's not a day that goes by that I don't go and listen to an old bit or an old monologue or something like that from Paul Harvey. Man, it just again, it's just that thing where it's uh, down home word that he's got, man, and it makes you feel comfortable. Like I said, Paul Harvey, big part of my life, man. The other thing that I was gonna hop into before we close out was I was gonna get into some things I hadn't seen, and I just came across these things. Like I said, I've been busy with work schedules, and I haven't had time to look over some stuff, and I miss my again, where I get my news from, you know, uh, TikTok and Instagram. But yeah, man, I didn't know that Kanye, man, Kanye is having a problem. I didn't know he was addicted to was it the laughing gas? He's addicted to that. Um, there was something else too that kind of caught my thing. His dependence on nitric acid. His I didn't know his former chief of writing of chief of staff, Milo Yiannopoulos. I forgot that cat was a big deal for a while, man. I forgot it was like in the 2000. I don't know, I was thinking like 2010s, 2011. Milo was a big thing, like because he was a gay cat and he was a conservative. He was into conservative things, and he was very much an outcast. He tried to go to like colleges and speak and shit. And they would protest him and threaten to kill him and shit, man. Just because he just wasn't following along like he's supposed to, like they wanted to. But yeah, he was his chief of staff over there at Yeezy or Yee headquarters. I didn't know that. He's not there no more, but he was the one that was talking about this thing that Kanye was addicted to the laughing gas and whatnot, and the dentist was giving it to him. The dentist that did his titanium grill was the one that introduced it to him and stuff. So now he's on the shit and he's just out there on it. But like Kanye needs more bullshit on top of his plate. Been a tough year for that dude, man. Can't win one, huh? Can't get a break. But he's interesting though. At the very least, he's very interesting. And I'm kind of I love America. I love my country and all that stuff. But I'm kind of glad the Olympics are kind of over. I kind of had my feel of it, you know, hearing about it and everything. So I'm kind of glad it's over. Yeah, there have been some cool things, a lot of things happened during it, and breaking was introduced, and I know everybody's been talking about the breakdancing thing. The chick from Australia, they've been talking about her, how they showed her audition tapes for breakdancing, and it's ridiculous. It's funny. Um, but for me, breakdancing, if we were going to introduce that, America has this on lock, and I said this before on my social media there that all you need to wrap this up, America, all they got to do is just get a couple of the Jabberwockies, and this is a wrap. It's gold every year, because there's nobody better at the dancing as the Jabberwockies. If you remember them, they were on MTV, that thing that showed that competition, the dance teams and stuff. That was a really cool show. I used to like that show. It was different, The Jabberwockies had a way about them, man. They had a style. They were very smooth. They looked like robots, They looked like AI robots and shit. They were cool as hell. And but yeah, man, breakdancing and the thing in the Olympics, that's interesting. It's very funny. I think it's 2028. It's going to be in LA, back on the American soil there. But while I did watch it, while I was on, I was flipping through it. Like when the Olympics first started, like the first week, I was interested, and it's like, okay, let me check this out for a little bit. I usually don't give it that much of a time of day, but I did. It did suck me in was the fencing. Those guys are smooth. Like they get a shot. One guy did one from behind the back, like that, poke the guy. It was pretty cool, man. Like I said, those guys are very skilled and talented, man. There's an art to it. And keep an eye on us. Our social media is gonna keep going. We're gonna keep posting stuff. Yeah, man, just keep following us and stay tuned. Thank you.